Hey, thank you for joining us this evening. Before we call our meeting to order, if you could please stand, and if I could have Mayor Pro Tem give us the invocation, please.
Father in heaven, we come to you once again, gathered together for the business of our city. We give you praise, honor, and glory because you are deserving. And Father, I ask that you will touch our minds so that we will do the best that we can to make things good for the citizens of the city and conduct the business as we should. Give us unity in the things that we do and give us grace in the things that we do. And we give you praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call this meeting to order for December 3rd, 2025. And Chief, we could have the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if we could have roll call, please.
Perez. Here. Sanders.
Here.
Chavez.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Amabil.
I'm here. First item is consideration of the approval of the agenda as submitted. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted to the City Council. Any questions or comments? Not hearing any. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now we have some presentations. I'd like to have the council come down to the floor with me.
Me?
Yeah, that's your presentation.
This is Rosemary.
Oh, you can do
First of all, as you can see, we're very festive this evening, and Rosemary Soto is our Employee of the Month. She's Accountant 2 from, come forward, Minnie. She's not here. She's not feeling well this evening, but she's Accountant 2 in our Finance Department. I mean, he's our Finance Director, of course, and she's our Employee of the Month, and this is in recognition of her outstanding performance and dedication to service to the City of Los Banos and being named Employee of the Month for November 2025. And Rosemary does our decorations every year, and she does a fantastic job, puts us in the spirit. So please make sure she has that.
Thank you.
And Bill, you come down. Well, Bill has been our city attorney for 22 years. And I remember you were like, what, 25 when you started?
No gray hair.
Yeah. I had hair. He had no gray hair. It was a great time. But anyway, he's done so much for our city. He's been a vital part of making this city run correctly and positively and in the right direction, making sure we're staying out of trouble. That's what the lawyer does. Make sure that mayor sitting up there is doing things right, along with the city council. And the city council here is honored to be able to proclaim the recognition of retirement of William A. Vaughn. Whereas William A. Vaughn has faithfully provided the city attorney services to the City of Los Banos since May 21st, 2003. And whereas William Vaughn has made significant and lasting contributions to the City of Los Banos through his knowledge, professionalism, and commitment to his role. And whereas William will retire from the City of Los Banos City Attorney on December 15th, 2025, concluding more than 22 years of service to the City of Los Banos. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and the city council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby commend William A. Vaughn on his dedication and loyalty to the City of Los Banos and congratulate him on his retirement. We can't thank you enough, Bill, for all the work you've done for the city, all our employees, our department heads. You've done a great job, and we really appreciate it. Congratulations. And if you serve the city for 20 years, you do get a retirement watch, and this is really nice. And so we're honored, the City Council and the City of Los Banos and the residents of Los Banos. Thank you for your dedication, and congratulations, Bill.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Bill, I haven't been here very long, but I want to say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you. I tried to get the Rolex, but Minnie just wouldn't let it happen. She was not with it. So, but anyways, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I was on Planning Commission when Bill first started. We had a different city attorney at that time. And so it was a transition that I had to get used to because he was more on the quiet side. But I want to thank you, Bill, for the years that you served the city of Los Banos. Enjoy your retirement, enjoy your children and your grandchildren, and relax and have fun. You're welcome.
I also have not been here very long, but it's been, great working with you so far, and congratulations and thank you for serving this long.
I can honestly say you're the best city attorney I've ever worked with. But thank you for your guidance and support and mentorship, and as I try to figure this thing out that I've never done before. So I appreciate it. Congratulations on your retirement.
Yeah, sure.
So I definitely appreciate the kind words. I don't know where 23 years has gone, but it's gone fast. And yes, I remember Mrs. Lewis, that first Planning Commission meeting I went to. I don't think I knew very much, but she helped me and educated me as to what was going on in the planning world in Los Banos. It's been my honor to have this job as city attorney, and it's really the highlight of my professional career. And part of that is the people that I've met along the way, worked with side by side, the staff here in Los Banos, the employees. That's the big part that I'm going to miss, is the interaction with everybody on staff. However, to be honest, what I'm not going to miss are these Wednesday night meetings. But I appreciate the kind words, and I hope I've done the city proud.
You sure have, Bill. Thank you very much. And just to let you know, too, Bill is not retiring from his private business, only from the city. So he's right across the street if you need a lawyer. A lawyer. Okay, now we'll turn to our public forum. Members of the public may address the city council members on any item of public interest that's within this jurisdiction of our city council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Anyone who'd like to speak to the city council, please come forward at this time and state your name. Welcome.
Good to be back. I know I missed the last one last month, but I'm back now. So, my name's Aeneas Brown, and what I wanted to bring up was the people. So, I've been all around the city. I've spoken to people that own land in the city. I've spoken to the homeless and everyone in between. And what I found out was that I've been helping out the people. I've given them personally my own clothes off my own back, and I've given them food out of my own cabinet to the homeless because no one's going to be starving throughout this winter. Now, I've worked with the churches, particularly the one on D Street, First Baptist Church, along with a couple others, but they're the main ones. And out of their own tithes and offerings, I was able to get 2 grills, 2 150-foot cables, and a bunch of extension cords that they can link their electronics and their phones to so that they can keep in touch with their loved ones. Now, I heard that the grills were taken from them. And I get the whole fire thing, but it's cold and it's raining, and no one's going to starve, especially the pregnant women and the young families that are at the camp. None of them are going to starve. Everyone's going to make it through the winter, and on to spring. So, with the grills that they have left, do not touch them. The generators, I'm working with the churches to collectively give donations, both of food, more food because they're going to need it, and generators so they can keep warm, because I've heard from them that the tents are too thin for them to keep warm, and again, the warmth. The tarps aren't doing anything. So, and because not all of them have beds, I'm working with Mid-Valley Disposal to get them mattresses that the people with homes do not need anymore. Because when I've been doing my runs to keep my body in shape, to do volunteer firefighting, I've seen that people have thrown about a lot of things, a lot of stuff, mainly mattresses. The mattresses, I'm speaking and working with, I actually have a meeting with them, but Mid-Valley Disposal has been open to preserving the mattresses that they collect around the city to give to the homeless, because not everyone has mattresses. And I've also been told that they don't have they don't even have sight at night. So we need to get together and get them floodlights so that they can see at night. Not only that, but the rain will come back. And when it does, they're going to be either ankle deep, hopefully not knee deep, but they're going to be ankle deep in water, because not everyone's on pallets. Not every tent has pallets underneath it. And I regularly go all over town because this is my work. I don't get paid for it, but I do it out of the kindness of my own heart. So they, ironically enough, chose me to speak up for them because they're super angry and they don't want to cuss nobody out. So I'm being formal and being the messenger for them. Now, when it comes to the National Guard, I have sought out the National Guard's help to get rations for people that do and do not have homes, because the rations last a month and others last 2 weeks. I've done this because I know Thanksgiving, we all spend money on food, and then Christmas dinner, that's basically Thanksgiving part 2 plus gifts. So come spring, nobody's gonna have much. So, and to coincide with the National Guard bringing rations through, I'm also working with Chief Tawali. He's been a great help for the people, even though his people are stretched thin, and they need help too, because the city's grown to 50,000 plus, and they only have so much people to go around. And I know that the other stations are in the works of being created, but we got to anchor down until that happens. The reason why I brought the fire department up is because I'm working with Merced's Fire Department and their food drive to bring down rations and whatever canned goods and fresh water they can spare to Station 1 so that I can personally have the churches disperse the food out to the people as needed. Other than that, human life is more important than whatever de facto penal code legalities that are going on that prevent the people from having the warmth that they need, whether it be from the grills, the fires from the grills, or whatnot. And I'm saying this because we have homes. Not everyone has one. So winter's coming hard. Whatever we just went through with the rain and the clouds for a whole week, that's just the beginning. It's going to be a whole lot more rain and a whole lot more ice. So we're going to need to band together and look out for each other. The homeless are getting themselves on their feet, and it's best that none of us put them down in any sort of way. They need as much help as the rest of us do, whether it be from the high-ups, you on the council, me just doing this stuff willy-nilly on my own, or they themselves. So other than that, they're going to need...
You need to wrap it up. You're past the
I get
finance.
you. I'm getting to it.
Thank you.
They're going to need canopies and proper tarps to cover themselves up for the rain. They're going to need proper showers and restrooms because that's what they're mostly angry about. And they're going to need plastic bins and tubs. So whoever around the city can and will donate, that is much appreciated. Like I said, I'm a broke college kid. I'm trying to go back to college so I can join the firefighters. I got to get my EMT certification. Then I got to join academy. I have no money to do so, so it's going to work out for me regardless. But in the meantime, I'm doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Likewise. And I love what you've done with the city. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Anyone else, please come forward.
My
Welcome.
wobbling's pretty wobbly. Okay. My name is Jerry Giesel, and I should say Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. So good to be here tonight. My name is Jerry Giesel. Been a citizen of Los Banos for 44 years. And I'm here tonight, it's short, as a representative of the Los Banos Elks Lodge, located on East Street and 6th Street, across the fairgrounds of the county fair and the Noah Jones ballpark, to extend our appreciation for work done by the street crew from Public Works. I previously notified Public Works of a hazardous sidewalk concern on the sidewalk adjacent to the lounge. They did a temporary patch job, and they said they would return to replace a section of the sidewalk when they could schedule it in. That being said, they followed up and completed the work as of 2 weeks ago. And therefore, I'd like to thank Ozzy, Jason, Ron, and Israel, and the Public Works Department as a whole for a job well done and a follow-up. Thank you. And Bill, you're the new guy there, so appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please come forward. Welcome.
Hello. First, I'd like to. There's two things that the community's been working on, and one is specifically, of course, the trying to get every pet home for Christmas. That's at the shelter. But also, I would like to thank the Public Works for their permission to hang a flyer up at the airport. I do also want to, it's going to be announced and talked about, but I'd like to thank the city, Police Chief Ray Rena, your department for your work with a very special event that's coming up next week. And I know you're going to talk all about that. I just wanted to spend my time. I have been volunteering for the SNP bus for over 5 years. And when we did this the last time, the city, what was most rewarding is helping our fellow citizens to be able to spay and neuter and get everything done for their animals. A lot of times some individuals can't afford, if it's a big dog, I mean, you're looking at a $600 bill. And so they keep their dogs inside their homes. And so then that way there's no fun stuff going on outside. And they don't get puppies. But all of that is during these events, I want to just, let me get my words together. I'd like to encourage you, Mayor, the council, and the staff to come out during that event. You're going to see some down-to-earth individuals that are so grateful, that love their animals so much. And you're going to see some wonderful animals, but mainly you're going to see wonderful community. And the pictures and the videos that will come out are just genuine individuals that are so grateful. Thank you. Because life can change on a dime, and so it's important that you come out and just take a look, spend a little time, and see everything. And I'm so proud of our police department for doing the work to bring this about, and whatever chains of command you had to go through. So thank you very much, and please come out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please come forward. Okay, I do not see or hear anyone coming forward, so I'll go ahead and close the public forum. Do appreciate, before I close the public forum, we do have some letters to read. Lucy, if you could read Miguel's letter, and I think I want to hold on to Julie Creighton's letter till when we reach that item on the agenda.
Mayor and council members, I am reaching out to respectfully request your support in establishing quarterly public reports regarding both the homeless encampment and the progress of the One Tree project. As a resident who is committed to keeping our community informed, and as someone who strongly believes in the potential of this program under Christie's leadership, I also recognize the ongoing concerns about transparency that many residents share. Number one, quarterly reports on the homeless encampment. Residents are asking for consistent updates on how the encampment is being managed, how many individuals have been helped, are currently being helped, or have exited the program, any plans to improve the well-being and safety of those living at the encampment, challenges staff are facing, and what support may be needed. 2, quarterly reports on the One Tree project. As the One Tree housing project moves forward, I request updates on construction progress, clear communication about the future placement process for unhoused individuals, an explanation of whether a selection or scoring system will be used, and how fairness will be ensured. After opening, quarterly outcomes such as successful placements, program effectiveness, and churn rate. Number 3, why transparency matters. We have seen how transparent concerns can affect public trust, whether the ARPA funding process or with the PBID discussions among downtown building owners. The same applies here. Residents deserve a clear understanding of how decisions are made, how individuals are selected, and how success is measured. Number 4, community partnership. I am committed to helping keep the public informed. Quarterly reports would give me, and many others, accurate information we can share with residents, but we need the council's assistance to make this possible. If there is anything we can do together to improve community trust and ensure that transparency is upheld throughout this process, I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to collaborate. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter and for your service to our community. Respectfully, Miguel Alejandra, Los Banos resident.
Okay, thank you. And we have another letter that we'll read when we get to that item on the agenda. And so I'll close the public forum at this time and turn back to the City Council. And the first item is consideration of the approval of the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and may be voted on with one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a City Council member. So with this, Lucy, if you could read the consent agenda, please.
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 254915 through 255134 in the amount of $4,336,353.73. City Council Resolution Number 7022, rejecting the bids for the water meter replacement project. City Council Resolution Number 7023, accepting the Meadowlands Wet Well Replacement and Bypass Project as complete and authorizing the filing of a notice of completion with the Merced County Recorder for Rolfe Construction, Inc. City Council Resolution Number 7024, authorizing a lease agreement between the City of Los Banos and Fernando Escobedo, DBA Escobedo and Sons, for the purpose of leasing agricultural parcel APN 454-0200-001, amending the fiscal year 2025-26 budget by increasing revenue in the amount of $7,500 and authorizing the city manager to execute the lease and all related documents. City Council Resolution Number 7025, approving and adopting final tract map number 2021-01, Quail Meadows Villages at Stone Creek 5, Phase 3, Unit 4 for Anderson Homes. City Council Resolution Number 7026, accepting the Transportation Development Act Funds financial statement for the years ended June 30, 2021 and 2020 as prepared by Price Page and Company, Merced County Association of Governments Auditors. City Council Resolution Number 7027, accepting the Transportation Development Act Funds financial statement for the years ended June 30, 2020 and 29 as prepared by Price Page and Company, Merced County Association of Governments Auditors. City Council Resolution Number 7028, authorizing a one-year facility use agreement between the City of Los Banos and Los Banos American Little League for the use of Colorado Ballpark in the amount of $3,387 for the 2026 Little League season. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions the council have or any items you want to pull off for further discussion? Then I will entertain a motion.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to approve this consent agenda as submitted to the City Council. Any further questions or comments? Not hearing any. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried. Our next item is a public hearing. If you challenge the proposed action as described herein in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Our public hearing is to receive public comment and consideration of a general plan amendment 2022 2022-02, Final Development 2022-02, and an addendum to the previously certified Villa Verano Area Plan Environmental Impact Report, SCH number 20060111135, for the North Point at Regency Park project. And let's see, and we have 4 resolutions under that. And if we could go ahead and turn it for staff report first before we open up the public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So just an overview of the North Point project. It consists of a 114-acre planned development community. It has 543 single-family lots with 6 open space lots, 1 fire station site, which is 1 acre. It has 4.23 acres for about 84 to 127 multifamily units with that range, and infrastructure that includes new roads, utilities, a trail, and a roundabout. Some background on this particular project. Originally, this land was annexed into the city in 2008 under the Villa Verano Area Plan with a certified environmental impact report. Since that time, which that original applicant was Woodside Homes, but since that time, a new applicant has taken ownership of the property, which is Stonefield Home Inc., and they've rebranded the property as North Point at Regency Park. So this is the location of the property. It's located between Place Road, Ward Road Extension. So Place Road is on the west side, and then it turns into Westminster, and then we have Ward Road on the east side, which has an extension. It's bounded by Quayle Street on the north side, and which would be an extension of Quayle Street, South Point subdivision on the south side, Westminster Way and Place Road on the west side, and the San Luis Canal on the east side. You can see this is just north of Pacheco High School and south of the Ag Sports Complex. And it's considered an infill development project as it's really the last missing puzzle piece of development on this eastern section of town. The City Council tonight, what you will be considering is an addendum to the Environmental Impact Report, which was previously certified under the Villa Verano Area Plan. You'll be looking at a general plan amendment and a zone change, a final development plan that really facilitates the development of the entire 114-acre planned development community. And you'd be authorizing the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement for the sewer main replacement project. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on November 12th to consider the general plan amendment, the zone change final development plan, the addendum to the EIR, and the vesting tentative tract map for North Point. At the completion of the public hearing, the Planning Commission approved the vesting tentative map and recommended approval of the general plan amendment, the zone change, the final development plan, and the addendum to the EIR to the City Council. So the Planning Commission only has authority and jurisdiction over the vesting tentative tract map. They are a recommending body, though, for the other entitlements, which is the general plan amendment, zone change, final development plan, and the addendum to the EIR. And then there is one item that it is not under the discretion of the Planning Commission is the reimbursement agreement, which is added tonight. That vesting tentative map is conditioned, though, to only become active upon City Council approval of the final development plan, should that happen tonight. The environmental review, an addendum was prepared originally to the Villa Verano EIR, which was prepared per SEQA section 15164. Within that addendum, it's identified that no new significant environmental effects were identified. Minor updates to address current transportation and mitigations have occurred. We did a mitigation measure review. We went through all of the mitigation measures within that original environmental impact report. And we reviewed that with the applicant, and specifically the applicant reviewed and hired a qualified consultant to review air quality, biology, noise, and traffic studies to confirm that those mitigation measures are satisfied. And all other measures remain in effect from the certified EIR. So no other mitigation measures were affected since the time that the EIR has been originally certified back in 2008. We also did a transportation analysis, and the applicant had a traffic engineer, which is Wood Rogers, prepare a traffic memo based on a transportation analysis that they did on the new layout proposed with the North Point project. We then had that analysis peer reviewed by the city's traffic engineer consultant, Fair and Pierce, and determined that the intersection at State Route 165, Dove and Vineyard, is projected to be at a level of service of D, which is acceptable per our general plan. The project will be required to pay their fair share toward controlled intersection, which is at that intersection above and beyond the city's transportation impact fee, 14%. That is their fair share contribution, which then also identified that originally a roundabout was identified at Ward and Dove because that in the original layout back in 2008 had an intersection that was created there. Where Ward crossed Dove, and now with the new layout proposed within North Point, Ward Road actually turns into Dove, which that means that that roundabout is no longer needed based on the new layout. Then a general plan amendment and zone change is what's proposed tonight. It adjusts land use to match the final development plan. It removes a pocket of neighborhood commercial and replaces that with high-density residential. Staff with the applicant determined that that original old neighborhood commercial land use was not necessary, nor is it conducive in that area all the way on the eastern edge of town, and probably wouldn't be able to be feasible to be built in that area, whereas typically commercial development is looking for traffic volumes near Mercy Springs or on Pacheco. But would be conducive for high-density residential, as we just adopted a new housing element and also recently adopted a new general plan. And within that new general plan, as well as our housing element, we are looking for pockets within neighborhoods to be able to provide high density, so we can provide all levels of income, all levels of housing within community. And this also supports the city's goal for housing diversity, connectivity, and public facilities. So this development is proposing a range of housing diversity with single-family residential. It has low density, medium density, and high density, so it covers all of the density ranges. It creates connectivity with a linear trail and the street grid section, transportation network. It creates that connection with the trail system down to Pacheco High School and further down to the Meadowlands subdivision. And it creates public facilities, which is open space, parks, and 1 acre designated for a fire station. The final development plan highlights, it does establish framework for land use, circulation, infrastructure, and open space. It promotes high-quality neighborhood design. It provides for 6 parks, which is 6 open space parcels, linear trail, a 1 acre fire station, and a roundabout. That roundabout is really designed to be that ornamental feature as you enter into the subdivision. And then you'll open up into open space, into a park. And then that connects you to the linear trail along the San Luis Canal. And there will be a variety of lot sizes and architectural styles. The project design and architecture, it does consist of a mix of low, medium, and high density housing. It provides for 27 home plans that range between 1,200 square feet to over 3,300 square feet. It does consist of American traditional styles with color and material variation, and it focuses on neighborhood character and visual diversity. And those architectural features are within the final development plan, which is in this bound book. Circulation and infrastructure. The street network connects to existing roads such as Place, Ward, Westminster, and Broadstone. Broadstone's a new street that's located within South Point. And as I said, this is really that missing puzzle piece. It's that final piece to be developed on this eastern section of town, this northeastern section of town, and really creates that extension of those existing roads such as Place, Ward, and Westminster. It creates pedestrian and bike trails. It has shaded sidewalks and an 8-foot canal path, which is a joint use trail for bike and pedestrians. And it has water, sewer, and storm drain systems in accordance with the city's master plans. This is an exhibit showing the circulation. Place Road, as it comes up from the south, so from South Point, and the existing piece of Place Road, as you're traveling north towards North Point, is an arterial. And then as you pass through the roundabout, then it tapers down into a local street. And then Ward Road is a collector that then bends over into Dove Street, which then Dove takes you westward and connects you to Mercy Springs. And this is the land use layout of the final development plan. And you can see there's a range. The yellow represents low density residential. The orange is medium density residential, and then the darker brown or darker orange color is 4.23 acres, which is the multifamily. And you can see where the parks are in open space. There is a reimbursement agreement component, and that's because North Point is bisected by an aging and deteriorated sewer main that serves a portion of the city's wastewater collection system. This is an old sewer main that we think is probably about 100 years old. Not at any fault of North Point. It's an aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced, and the city is already working on replacing the line on the east side of the canal towards the wastewater treatment plant. We already have that project under construction. And so this component of it was also originally included in the city's overall capital improvement project for replacement. But it just works out that the applicant, the developer, is electing to replace that sewer main and provide those improvements within the project boundary. They've agreed to construct that sewer main, those improvements. So the city will reimburse the developer for eligible actual costs not to exceed $1.4 million, which is the bid amount that the city would have expended to the vendor to complete the work as part of the broader sewer trunk line replacement program. And the agreement establishes required construction standards, inspection provisions, warranty obligations, acceptance procedures, and the recording of a public utility easement over that sewer line. And this is where that reimbursement agreement, where that sewer main replacement will occur. It's actually that rectangular area that's the dark gray rectangle. I've just highlighted in red around that to show where that project location, and that's just the section of sewer main replacement that actually goes through the project boundary. Outside of the project boundary, the city will still continue to work through our capital improvement project in replacing that sewer main. It's an old 24-inch line that is being upsized and replaced with a brand new 36-inch line. Public comment, public hearing notices were published and mailed on November 19th, 2025. They were published in the West Side Express, One comment letter was received from the Grasslands Water District, which is attached in your packet. And all of those issues were actually addressed within the vesting tentative tract map as conditions of approval, which were approved by the Planning Commission. So it satisfied Grasslands comments, which were really requesting a fence, which is that applicant has agreed to a steel wrought iron fence between the joint use trail and the canal. And limitation on the type of vegetation, and to ensure that vegetation doesn't impede on the grassland canal area. So staff is recommending that the City Council will consider adopting resolution number 7029, adopting an addendum to the previously certified Villa Barano Area Plan Environmental Impact Report in compliance with CEQA, to then adopt resolution number 7030, approving a general plan amendment and zone change for the North Point at Regency Park, subject to the conditions of approval that are attached with the resolution. Adopt a resolution number 7031, approving the final development plan for North Point at Regency Park, subject to conditions of approval. And then finally, adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement for the sewer main replacement project between the City of Los Banos and Stonefield Home, Inc. And that concludes my presentation. I know I went through that pretty quickly, so please feel free to ask me any questions.
Okay, we'll first open the public hearing, if then the City Council has any questions. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing to receive public comment and consideration for the General Plan Amendment 2022-02, Final Development 2022-02, and the addendum to the previous certified Villa Barano Area Plan Environmental Impact Report for the North Point at Regency Park project. You heard Planning Director Stacy just describe the project. If anyone has any comments, please come forward at this time and say them to the council.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jeff Roberts. I've been asked to speak on behalf of Stonefield Homes, the owner of the property and the subject of the discussion here this evening. I first off want to thank staff for their excellent presentation. It makes it very easy to see what the project is and how it's evolved over time. I think Stacy called it the last puzzle piece on the east side of town, and I think that's very fitting, and we would certainly like to complete the puzzle tonight. So with this brief introduction, I'd like to respectfully say we do concur with the staff recommendation and with their conditions of approval. And I want to thank staff again and also concur with the unanimous recommendation of your Planning Commission, which occurred on November 12th. Stacy made it very easy for you this evening. On this last page, there's 4 resolutions. One covers the EIR addendum, and I think it's important to note that the staff noticed that there is no significant environmental impacts that were not looked at when the Villa Barano EIR was first certified. Number 2, the resolution 7030 addresses both the plan amendment and the rezone that are before you this evening. There are minor adjustments to the original plan. And number 3, the final development plan is represented under resolution 7031, which is before you. And then the reimbursement agreement, which was not considered by the Planning Commission, but is strictly a council issue, was, I think, very well laid out here tonight and provides for an efficient delivery of sewer lines within the project area. If this is approved here this evening, it allows Stonefield to move forward with their plans to develop the project with all 111 conditions of approval that were approved by the PC, or by the Planning Commission. Stacy mentioned there's 27 home plans, there's 117 acres, there's multifamily, there's single family of low and medium density, and it allows for a fire station site of 1 acre within the project area. So with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll just briefly summarize by saying that Stonefield folks are here in the audience if there are questions. If not, we do concur with the recommendation of staff, with the unanimous recommendation of the commission, and be happy to answer any questions if we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please come forward. Welcome.
Hi. I just have a real quick question. I know that developers, the school district and the city, I know you have your 2x3s. That's a lot of homes, and the school district is running out of places to buy land to put a school. And so I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I know you want another fire department, and I know we want more parks, but I wish we could offer some land up in some of these residential areas for schools, because otherwise we're not going to have a place to put them. So that's all I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please come forward.
Blanche George, one more time. This project is beautiful and it's wonderful and it's complete and it's well thought of. The one thing I would want to emphasize, since I have the ears of the individuals of Stonefield Homes, but I'm addressing you guys for proper protocol, is that pushing the limits as far as making the amenities available, some of the unique housing properties that are being built currently have amenities for animals. Whether or not it's high density or whether or not it is just, a regular home. There are some amenities that residential people are purchasing, and that is to have catios built in, and people pay for those additional amenities, the cat walk-arounds, the running trails for back and forth for a side yard. All of those residences are purchasing those add-ons. So it's really nice that we have a local boy that is thinking outside the box, hopefully, and his personnel can take it back to him, that if those amenities are sold to these individuals, his properties are going to stand out compared to every other property currently right now in the city of Los Banos. Everybody has a cat or dog, whether or not they live in high density or not. Giving those individuals that purchase a home to have something built in for that, that they even have in the garage, they even have access to pull some big heavy dog food through the garage, through a passway so it could be stored. A builder can do all of those, charge the resident that wants those, and then also have a very unique subdivision. And other developers are doing it currently, but we can make a difference in doing something a little bit different. Thank you for listening, and let's keep on with the pets. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please come forward. Welcome.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Matthew Rogers. I'm a project manager with Benchmark Engineering. We're responsible for developing the final development plan, tentative map, and working with staff on taking this project to this point. With that being said, I would like to thank Stacy and her staff for all their hard work on this, because we've been working on this very long time with them, and we're happy to finally get to this point. Hopefully start building homes soon. That's what our main goal is. So as Stacy said, this is a nice infill project to finalize the connectivity between Ward Road, Place Road, and Westminster, and every other road connection. Not only for circulation, but also for utilities, including the sewer replacement project. This project, we believe, provides a lot of amenities. It provides the park, the trailway system, dedications that the city will be responsible, or that the city has agreed to develop as far as the trailway and the park. We would dedicate it to them for development. The multi-family parcel is something we believe that the city has requested, and so we know that the city really needs, and so we're happy to provide that parcel for them. And to address some of the concerns that were brought up, I know Stonefield is in talks with the school district to develop a school site in the area. So I know it's not with this project, but they are in talks with them on another project site. And then to address the pets, that being said, the trailway and the park being developed by the city should help provide that walkability for the pets. And as far as the homes go, they are pet friendly. And so maybe something can be worked out in that end. I'm available for any other questions. I was heavily involved in the design process, so know quite a bit about it. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah, we'll ask her questions after the vote.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please come forward. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council staff. Just had two questions. Now, this proposed fire station or location for a fire station, is that in addition to the fire station is proposed to the south on Ward Road near the water tank and Lindeman Trail? Or is this going to be a replacement for that fire station? Second is the width of the streets. Are they going to be sufficient to allow the emergency vehicles to pass, having vehicles parked on the roadway? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll answer those questions after the public hearing is closed. Anyone else, please come forward. Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. I appreciate everybody that spoke in the public hearing. And now I'll turn it over to the council with questions. First of all, before I do that, I want to answer a few of those questions. The school district, like was said, in the early 2000s, the building schools have been a problem in the state. The state is supposed to fund schools 100%, and they're not doing it. They stopped doing it, I think, in the 80s, the late 80s, the early 90s. And then there was some kind of formula. The school district had to put up so much money, and you had to qualify, and it really was difficult. So in the early 2000s, I brought forward a request to, at that time, there was about 6 developers in town that were working throughout our town. And we had a volunteer agreement signed by the developers. And I know a lot of you already know this, but I'll say it again, that raised the fees above what was required by the state. And that raising of those fees could not be required by the city council. It had to be an agreement between the school district and the developers. They all signed it, and Mr. Hostetler, Stonefield Homes, was the first one to sign it, along with Larry Anderson at the time. They both signed it right away, and we got the other ones to sign it. So that really helped since then. That's 20 years, a little over 20 years, we managed to be able to help fund the school. So then, we went on, and I could see there was much more to building schools than just money, and it was, like said, it was property. We needed property. So we started negotiating. We negotiated the property for Pacheco High School. I helped negotiate that property with that developer at the time, and that was gifted to the school district for Pacheco High School. Then we worked on the college, and Larry Anderson donated the college property from where you see Merced College. Those were above and beyond what was ever required. And our philosophy, and I'm sure it's still the same up here, was that all new development has to enhance our existing residents. It can't just burden the city, whatever. It has to enhance all of us. The state, as we said, the housing element that gets updated, we have to update our housing element every 8 years. Every 8 years. And then we're required to follow that housing element. And if we do not follow it, and that means building homes, then the state can come to Los Banos and control our development. And we really don't want that. Doesn't happen very often, but those are some of the things we're up against as a city. So for the school, I know we've been negotiating with the school district. We do a 2x3 with this landowner for a new site, and we're in the preliminary discussion on it. So that will continue, and after this development, we'll continue for other developments. I've talked with the school district. We want them to tell the city where they need schools for the next 20 years. We got to put a little dot on the map, even if it's, even if it will change down the road. The city needs to know what's best for the school district and the best for our children and the parents of those school children. So we need to plan and do it right. And so this is part of that with the school district. Now, the fire station that was talked about, I know that will be I don't know if it's going to replace, Stacy, can you answer that one? Or Paul, you want to answer that?
Yeah.
Chief?
With the new fire station, yes, it's going to be the actual site for the east side fire station there in lieu of where the water tank was. So we did do some mapping of the area to get our response times down. This was an ideal location for the
Yeah, I know
fire station.
things changed with building, things changed, and we moved it from the south end to the north end. And that's why our new fire station that's going to be built next year, starting to be built next year, is on the west side, on the south side. So that's with that.
And
then
Mr. Mayor, if I may add that
Yeah.
that fire station on the west side is where the Regional Emergency Operations Center will occur. That was originally thought would be off of War Road, and that's why that was thought to be a larger site. But that will be with fire station number 4, which is on the west end of town. And this east end will serve the response times that are needed on the east end of town. This was a more ideal location based on the growth of the city. And that larger fire station on the west end of town is because that's where the city is growing to the west.
Okay, and so now another question was about street width.
Yes, so this is a larger street width. It is proposing the local streets are 52 feet wide, which is an extra 4 feet than what we see in the smaller streets, which is no longer the city standard. But this project was technically vested with the old city standard, so the smaller street size, but the developer opted for a wider street based on discussions with the city. And so it is 4 feet wider, 2 feet on each side, so it's not as tight.
Okay, and Chief, with
Stacy, with those streets, that's, just so people have context, that's larger than the streets behind Target, right?
Yes, an
2 feet on
extra
each side.
4 feet than the streets next to Target. So the streets next to Target are relatively like 16 on each side traveling, and this will be 18 and 18 on each side.
And the plan that we've been working on to update, we're consideration of widening a little bit more, just because again, for police and fire and ambulance and all that good stuff, right? Okay.
Yes.
And then, Councilmember, I may speak to that. Back in '23, we did saw an issue with some of those smaller streets, so we did adopt the new standard. So this development, when it comes to curb space, that does meet the 2023 standard that we adopted to account for that. And that went through the Traffic Safety Committee, Planning Commission, and Council at the time. Yeah.
Can I go back to the fire station real quick? I know you're saying it's that here in this new spot, but will that land for that, where you had it originally proposed by the water tank, is that still a property that we can still hold on to in case we want to put one there in the future, or no? I'm asking, I don't know.
It's our property.
So we still can do that in the future if we saw we had a need for that. Okay.
Yes, it is city-owned property.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to any council members for any other questions, staff. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. My only question is, Chief, is the 1 acre going to be sufficient enough for a new fire station to cover that area?
Yes, it will be. The Station 4, it's going out in the west, is a little bit over an acre in itself, and we're in that location. We have the Emergency Operations Center and a fire station going there. So, with Station 3 only needing a fire station there, 1 acre is going to be sufficient for what we need.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Evan?
Staying on the topic of the fire station, at what point will that be built during the development? Like, I know it's coming from the impact fees, but is there any kind of estimate of when that's going to happen? Because the east side is lacking a fire station.
So it's being dedicated to the city, and it's actually with the first final map, an irrevocable offer of dedication. So we will have the right to have title to that parcel prior to the first final map being recorded. And we wanted to ensure that, and the applicant agreed on the front end, so we could have that dedication. But we also want to be sure that we don't necessarily take that ownership until the streets are in and the infrastructure is in, because we wouldn't be able to build the fire station without that. And the houses being there is just the need, intensifies the need for the fire station being there. So we will have the irrevocable offer of dedication, and then when that phase is ready to be built, then that will either, we've already recorded that irrevocable offer of dedication, or it'll be dedicated with that phase when that map comes forward. And that will be the city that will develop and build that fire station.
So there's no real idea of when, because the site for this fire station on the east side's been there for quite some time, but still no fire station on it. So I'm just curious, like, if there's a plan, like, I know the land's there for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just am curious about any kind of timeline, or that's just kind of TBD.
I think the priority is to have fire station number 3 built first, and that's still going through its, 4, right? We keep confusing ourselves with the numbering system. So the number 4 is on the west end, and that's where the focus will be. And once that is complete, then we'll be able to focus on standing up fire station number 3 on the east side.
So it's going to be a minute.
Mayor, go ahead. And Councilmember Sanders, just to add to that too, is that with the additions of fire station number 4, will free up a lot of response call from station 1, because we still have station 2 and station 4 now going to be up to date. Plus, with the cities working on the vineyards and 165 intersections, that's opened a brand new corridors on the north side to where currently you can't do that, right? So the response time will improve regardless of when the phase of that project is. So we are right now is working toward that staffing plan, so that when station 4 come in, it's going to be staffed, and then now you're actually going to have that additional response time and additional body, and freeing that off of our headquarters, which is off of station 1.
Okay. Which kind of leads me into my next question, which is, we talked a little about the interchange between Dove and 165, and that, so the traffic studies, did it look at what's going to happen when Vineyard connects? So we already talked about a roundabout or a light at Vineyard 165 Dove, but having Ward connect into Dove and come through that neighborhood and then all the way across the city, like, I feel like that's going to end up being kind of a default north bypass that people are going to use that are in the know. And I'm curious if those traffic studies have taken that into account.
It did. It still determined that the level of service would still be at D with this project build out. So that's still acceptable with our general plan. So it's still within the parameters of the general plan, the threshold. But it did identify that this project will have a 14% fair share above the transportation impact fees. So of that intersection, that roundabout, that controlled intersection, it's responsible for 14% of that construction. It's not responsible for all of it. And the city is already in the design process of designing that intersection for that roundabout with Caltrans. So it did identify that that intersection does need to be controlled, but this project's responsibility is only 14%.
Right, and so the responsibility is one thing. I just want to make sure that we're thinking forward, and 10 years from now, we're not like, oh, geez, we didn't make these streets wide enough, and now we have trouble at this intersection that we can't remedy because there's houses or whatever it is that we have.
So,
Okay,
if I may, I
great.
remember this because this project came in while I was still public work director a couple of years ago. So we actually take a look at intersections. So typically in a traffic impact analysis, we look at the existing project impact, which is the existing development, plus the development that's going to come in, and then we look at all the other developments that are going to come into this place, typically through a traffic model. And that's what we did. We have an update traffic models, use those critical intersections like 165 and Vineyards, look at Ward, look at Place and B, and look at what's that going to take with final build out. So at level service D, that's pretty much at build out. So we did account for all future development if they were to come in and infill all those infrastructure. So it's based off the model.
Also, I'm sorry, Councilmember. I do want to add that on Ward Road, really taking into consideration what that would look like, because that is here in this exhibit, you can see it's a collector. That's that orange street as it connects into Dove. No houses face Ward Road, and it's really to preserve that collector to get traffic efficiently east and west. But because Ward runs north and south predominantly until it starts to curve towards the north end of North Point. But it's really looking into how can we efficiently get traffic north and south and then over up to Mercy Springs, because you're absolutely right. It will carry, and it's meant to be, it's designed that way to be able to help traffic.
It's that little section of Dove that's my concern, because
There
there are
is.
houses facing that street.
There is that impact, but unfortunately, that's this grid we're trying to get traffic efficiently out to Mercy Springs, and unfortunately, that's already developed.
The reality that we live in.
Exactly. If I could go back in time and be able to fix, Dove, Overland, Wilmot, those would be the streets that I would definitely take houses off of the fronting of those streets.
Which leads to my next question. Ward Road, the 19-year-old hooligan in me looks at that as a nice, long, straight piece of road without a lot of intersections. And I'll ask Chief Reyna, are there any traffic calming measures on this? Because I see this being a racetrack. Like kids are going to look at this, they're going to drive their cars up this nice new piece of asphalt, and it's going to be a racetrack.
So, if you'd like, Chief Reyna, feel free, but I have some info on.
Go ahead. I'm not sure if they're built into this project.
Yes. So we have some bulb outs of where those intersections. And it's built into the conditions of approval, but it's also here in the final development plan. But the streets bulb out, and it's designed that way as a traffic calming measure. It's here, here, and here. And then we also have conditions of approval that require traffic calming measures to the satisfaction of the Public Works Director. And we've been able to implement that in other brand new subdivisions where we've used speed cushions to be able to slow traffic down. And we'll be looking at whether that's a suitable treatment here in this subdivision as it continues to get built out.
Okay. So I know the speed cushions are just really hard to add later on, so I'd really like to see something done when
On
it's
the
built.
front end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that'd be cool. Let me see here. You didn't lead smoothly into my next question, so I have to find one. And this is just for my education, because I looked over I looked at this plan, and everybody talked about low density, medium density, high density. I see the high density, which I don't think is actually being built here. It's just carved out so somebody can build on it in the future. What's the real difference between low density and medium density? Like, what's the actual difference? Because when I think of medium density, I've always thought of like condominiums and townhouses and things like that, where it's like connecting walls between them. But these look like they're kind of the same houses, just on smaller lots. So is there a difference other than that?
It is. It is smaller lots to be able to achieve that lower density. And it is on the lower end of medium density, but it is still achieving medium density. So they're all smaller lot size. Typically, that yields to a starter home, first-time home buyer that maybe can't afford a 6,000 square foot lot, but can afford a 5,000 square foot lot. So they are typically smaller houses on smaller lots. But that's medium density ranges from 7 units per acre up to 20 units per acre. And this is on the lower end, so it's between 7 and 8 in the medium density side. But it does allow for single-family residential, just on a smaller lot size.
Right. So, yeah, it looks like most of these lots are 4,050 square feet, I think it was, which is a pretty small lot. I'm curious what the biggest house is. Maybe one of the Stonefield folks can answer what the biggest house is that's going to be seen on those little lots.
The range of square footage for this project is 1,000 square feet.
To the microphone.
For the medium density.
Mayor.
Yeah.
They need to come
So
to the
you want to
microphone.
repeat that, Stacey?
Tiffany Marshall from Stonefield Homes stated that on the medium density, it would range from 1,000 square feet to 2,700 square feet in the medium density, low and medium. Yeah, so we see in the final development plan, it's 1,200. It does show 3,300, but 3,300 would be on a larger,
Right.
low
So
density
there isn't a
lot.
specific set of houses for the medium density, then another set of houses for the high density. They're just kind of all mixed in.
Yes, there is specific plans that will only fit on the medium density lots because they will not achieve the setbacks that the city requires.
Right.
So it is a specific type of house.
So, again, this meets all of our requirements, and I have no problem not trying to change the rules or anything, but I do think it's something that we should probably discuss, because I think at some point you lose the benefit of putting that bigger houses on a smaller lot, and it's time to maybe move to something that's more traditional medium density. I get the single-family home. Everybody wants a single-family home. But, in our city, we run into all these parking problems, and people end up with nowhere to park but their lawn, which isn't ideal for anyone.
I completely agree with you, Councilmember Sanders, and that will be something that we will need to, and the council will need to consider, and that would be diving into our zoning code to really define what medium density, as the minimum standard is probably a duplex townhome versus a single-family unit.
Sure. And that's, I know Stonefield this is a nice community, and, it's just for the future. I think we need to think about it. The trail was mentioned. I really like the trail along Canal. It's something I've been pushing for a long time. Is there any push to extend that down past the high school, or is that, I know it's completely separate, but having this hopefully plants an anchor and we can continue doing that?
Yeah, I'll let Director Heim.
Yeah, so we recently did the South Point public meetings, and so there's definite discussion there as far as having a looped trail there. In terms of the Pacheco High School, that would just require discussion with them and the school board. And then I know we've discussed as well carrying it down through Meadowlands Basin as well. So I guess the answer would be yes, but we would try to make that effort, but it ultimately.
Okay. Well, hopefully people see this in this development and push for it going the rest of the way, because it'd be nice to
We
see.
would also, Director Heim, connect up to the north to the Ag Sports Complex. That's our ultimate goal, is to create that full loop system that could take you from the Ag Sports Complex potentially all the way to Pacheco.
Well, and potentially all the way down to Meadowlands would be really nice.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers my questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Just to kind of go back a little bit with what Evan was saying, I think as far as some of the zoning, I think something we need to look at is space between the homes. A little bit more space. They seem to be very, very close together. This is a nice development and we're good here. I'm just saying, moving forward, something to consider. So I think that's something I'd like to consider moving forward. I think the gentleman's name is Matthew. I think. Yeah, I had a question for you. So you had mentioned, well, first, you said something about pets and those amenities would be something you guys would be open to as far as, where residents, if they wanted to add certain, add-ons within the bill, that's possible? I know it's not a yes, but you'd be open to taking a look at that.
Yeah, I'm sure Stonefield would be open to looking at that. I know that they had stated that their homes are pet friendly. And
Gotcha.
so if that's something that they want to work with the home buyer on, I'm sure that they can look into that.
And then my second question, you make mention about you guys are already looking at property with school districts somewhere. What area is that, or can you even say where that potentially might be?
Was that? Oh,
Yeah,
did you want-
it's north of that.
No.
that part.
Okay. Now I'm just curious to where, in relation, just wanted to know more or less where it was at. So kind of north of that then.
Yeah.
Councilmember, if I may, just,
Yeah.
usually a siting of a schools does get quite a bit complicated, mainly
Yep.
because circulations, water capacities, and all that connections has to come in, and plus the really the majority of the stakeholder would be the school district because of the school boundary itself. So we are working toward that with the mayor as well as Mayor Pro Tems on our 2x3. So that is to be further discussed because we are really very much look forward to that facility master plan from the school district so that we can incorporate those into our circulation element as well as our utilities and master plan.
Good.
So that's coming up.
All right.
Thank you, Daron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew, before you leave, you said that the homes were pet friendly. Could you describe exactly what does that mean to a potential buyer?
Unfortunately, I'm not really versed in the home itself. That would be a question for Stonefield. I don't know if Tiffany would be able to handle that.
Hi, good evening. To answer the question about our homes are designed to be pet friendly. So pet friendly has a lot of variation of design components for the floor plan itself, but also the amenities within it, energy efficiencies. You also have pet friendly options of no carpet. We work with our buyers if buyers want to add in pet doors. We don't particularly add in the catwalks, but I mean, we certainly would work with a buyer if they had a special request.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer? There was something else that was, so I know the mayor spoke to our discussions, preliminary discussions with the school district, and I would like to say that we are very much in preliminary discussions with the school district about one, if not maybe two school sites to the north of North Point. We understand schools are needed here. We are, as the developer and applicant, trying to also work with the school district on what sites could be dedicated for that. So, and then we can design communities around that. So the school district is also in their preliminary talks with one particular location north of North Point with the state to get that process and that ball rolling. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not for you. But.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is Neuron or Stacy or Bill. I'm not really sure, but I'm just kind of. So this development, there's a lot of homes here. So the infrastructure we already have in place for our sewer, utilities, all that, we can handle all that, correct?
I think that was done through our environmental document. So yes, all of the infill, so aside from any future annexations, all of our infill has been taken into account into our general plans environmental documents. So that look at water supply, sewer, and storm. Yeah. And we are actually have quite a few projects coming up to make sure that we account for that. For example, that trunk line going from a 24-inch to a 36, as well as the new storm drain basins that was being done with Grassland Water Street just west of that to handle more storm water.
Thank you.
Anything? So, before we just make a decision on this project, I want to just say the last couple of city council meetings, I've talked about a growth management system that I had in place in the 2000s that I thought worked really well. And we are going to bring that back, and this project will be part of it. And we are going to go out and talk with the public. We have to make sure that growth is at a level that our public services can handle it, our police and fire can handle it, and public works and parks and everything. It's really important. And so we will make sure that's in place. So it's not going to be any kind of housing going crazy, and we're going to build hundreds and hundreds of homes a month. We're not going to do any of that. This is just planned growth management that keeps our city healthy, keeps our taxes lower, hopefully brings in more businesses and better paying jobs, because all those companies look at potential growth of your city, where you are today, as long as where you should be in 10 years and 20 years before they make a decision to come to our city. So those things are really important. So that's why we have that. And a growth management plan actually really helps that process and makes us look more favorable to those types of companies coming in, because we need to bring in good paying jobs. And so I'm very pleased with this project. It's been on the books for a lot of years, and we've the last year, a lot has changed. The city council and staff have worked really hard along with the developer to make changes to benefit our city and our community. And I really am, agree with it and are happy where we are with it today. So with that, we will move to item 1, which is City Council Resolution 7029, adopting addendum to the previously certified environmental impact report, SCH 20061135 for the Villa Borano area plan related to North Point at Regency Park project. I will entertain a motion on that.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 7029 as read by title.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Resolution 7029 as stated. Any further questions or comments from the council? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next item is City Council Resolution number 7030, approving General Plan Amendment 2022-02 and Zone Change 2022-02 for North Point at Regency Park, located at Assessor's Parcel Number 424010002, 005, and 006. I'll entertain a motion on that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 7030 as read by title.
Okay, we have a motion and second for Resolution 7030 as stated. Further questions or comments? Not hearing any. All approved by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 3 is City Council Resolution 7031, approving final development plan 2022-02 for North Point at Regency Park. I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 7031 as read by title.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for Resolution 7031 as stated. Further questions or comments? Not hearing any. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 4 is City Council Resolution number 7032, approving and authorizing the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement for the sewer main replacement between the City of Los Banos and Stonefield Homes Incorporated. I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 7032.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 7032 as read by title.
Okay, we have a motion and second for Resolution 7032 as stated. Any further questions or comments from the council? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Appreciate staff, appreciate Stonefield. We appreciate the process. Thank you all very much. Now we'll move on to consideration of emergency shelter options. And with this, we'll go back to our Community Economic Development Director, Souza Elms.
I'm going to get this presentation going and introduce our housing program manager, Christy McCammon. She's going to give us this presentation tonight. Christy, do you need the clicker? Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, I'm taller than I thought I was. That's awesome. I was going to ask for a step stool, but I feel much better. Good evening. I'm Christy McCammon. I'm the Housing Program Manager, proudly serving the City of Los Banos. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I'm here to talk about emergency shelter options, and I'd like to start by talking about the objective. We would like tonight to give the City Council and the Mayor information on options researched, and our objective is to seek direction from the City Council. Let me just put on my glasses here. We formed a joint commission that included the Police Department, Community and Economic Development, Fire, Finance, I'm going to just advance there for a moment, and Public Works. And we joined those teams so that we could make a thoughtful recommendation to City Council, considering all elements that homelessness touches. And so that joint commission has been meeting for quite a few months. And you may remember, if you were part of the Goals and Objectives workshop, that part of these recommendations came up there as well. After the Goals and Objectives workshop, this joint commission was established. And we came up with 4 considerations for you to review. One is the purchase of residential homes to increase shelter bed capacity for emergency shelter and discontinue the current rental model and add at least 2 more houses through purchase, or develop a tiny shelter village using statewide purchase agreements for emergency shelter structures. This is the option that was brought up at the Goals and Objective workshop. Third option on the table for consideration is the purchase and rehabilitation of a local motel. And then finally, we're bringing to the table continuing the current emergency shelter operations through the Bridge House rentals and the sanctioned tent encampment near the police department, and provide ongoing funding to sustain the current operations. So as for some background and for some level setting, the city of Los Banos has approximately 114 individuals experiencing homelessness, according to the point-in-time count last recorded. Point-in-time count is done annually. It is only required to be done every 2 years, but Merced County does it every year. And the point-in-time count will be conducted here very soon at the end of January. But the current number is 114 people experiencing homelessness in the city of Los Banos. The city of Los Banos, through efforts even before the housing division was here, but certainly after the housing division was created in 2023, is to create a coordinated and a comprehensive system to address homelessness within the city. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to need to put on my glasses. You might need to put on yours as well. And so part of that coordinated plan is that we have outreach and engagement, and we are proud that we have 2 outreach and engagement coordinators that are on the housing division team. And we also partner with many, many community organizations from the private sector, from the independent sector, from the faith-based community, and through governmental agencies. And we leverage the outreach and engagement resources that are amongst those community and governmental agencies so that we can have a force multiplier for our own outreach coordination resource. We also have systems support. This can include the coordinated entry system that is part of the Merced County Continuum of Care body. That's that HUD required body. We've got the homeless management information system. We have data and reporting systems, and that's part of our system response to homelessness, is to make sure that we have that systems support. We also need to have, as a comprehensive program, shelter. And we need that more than ever today, and that's why we're here today. Case management is part of our coordinated system addressing homelessness. And we are leveraging not only our own case managers and outreach coordinators, but then again, the case management that can come from the other partners that we coordinate with every single day. And then there's public space management that is part of our system response, and we do that very well through the public works partners that we have, through the police department, code enforcement partners that we have, keeping our city as beautiful as we can while still being humane and having compassion for addressing homelessness. And then, of course, as part of a comprehensive system, we have permanent supportive housing. We just had the groundbreaking for the One Tree Permanent Supportive Housing project, which will add 58 units of permanent supportive housing. I want to draw the distinction here between housing and shelter. Housing, of course, is long-term to permanent, and shelter is a temporary place for somebody to come in off of the street or out of the car, or a place not meant for human habitation. So that there is a very big difference. And in our complete system, although One Tree is well on its way and under construction now, We still have a need in our comprehensive system for this emergency shelter. I want to share with you that although we have a 114 number that we're working with today, we have to accept the reality that there may be people at risk of homelessness now. And I want to share with you, in the last 2 to 3 months, we've had 4 to 5 families calling us, living in cars. We do not, at this time that we know of, have any families in the encampment. However, we do have families living in fields. We have families living in cars. And so we want to address that as soon as possible. And having these calls come in just recently tells us we have to not only plan for emergency shelter that we have today, and even though we've got One Tree coming up, and we believe many people from the encampment will go into permanent housing, and we have the Bridge House model still, we have to accept the reality that emergency shelter may be in need ongoing. We wish that wasn't true. Moving on, I want to talk about our current shelter capacity and the needs assessment, why we're here today. The city currently has a maximum of 20 emergency shelter or interim beds. These are available through the Bridge Housing Program, jointly funded by the Merced City and County Continuum of Care and the City of Los Banos. We have 2 homes, one on Rock Creek and one on Champaign, and those houses are operated by the Rescue Mission. The Bridge homes have remained at 100% capacity since May of 2023. And that tells you they're being utilized, but they are full. That means even if we have somebody inside the encampment right now who is willing to go to emergency shelter, we don't have an emergency shelter bed available for them. So currently, the need really is that coming from the city not having a sufficient amount of shelter beds for the unhoused residents living in the city limits. And the rental of these Bridge House units are subject to the ongoing renewal of the rental agreements. And so these rental agreements are with private landlords. We hope that they enjoy the relationship with our operator, but we have to have a plan B in case those landlords decided that they did not want to rent that unit for whatever reason. We would have a transition period, and during that transition period of trying to find another rental, we might experience folks returning to the encampment or living in other places not meant for human habitation. I want to just make a note here that for One Tree, we have several people in the encampment, what we call One Tree ready. But we are going to have a gap and that ongoing need. So we estimate that if we've got even 40 people from the encampment moving on to One Tree, and we've got the shelter beds through the Bridge House program, there is still a need for some sort of emergency shelter. Emergency shelter is extremely important because it provides security and stabilization where case management can happen. It is incredibly difficult for our case managers to have effective work with somebody in the encampment or in another place not meant for human habitation who is just struggling to survive. It is very difficult if they don't have electricity for phones to stay connected with us. And participants in emergency shelter are able to stabilize and better participate in case management if they have that shelter stability. There's also a need for emergency shelter to preserve public spaces, address public health and safety issues, and to stabilize people experiencing homelessness, providing an environment where case management has an opportunity to be successful. While unhoused community members are in crisis and living in extreme conditions, case management is challenging. Unhoused community members will focus on acute emergent needs and have difficulty focusing on little else besides basic survival. We'd like to give you an example of where shelter has really made a difference in union with case management. We have a recent participant who is living in the encampment. They accepted an emergency shelter bed in one of the city's Bridge homes. She was able to stabilize her life, enter substance use treatment, and after a long period of sobriety, she received a job offer at the Bridge House as a house monitor. Not long after, she received a Section 8 voucher. I want to give very special thanks to Jennifer Lowe, our outreach coordinator, who did intensive case management with this participant and intensive work with the Section 8 and public housing folks to get that voucher for this participant. She's now secured permanent housing of her own. She was approved for an apartment. In the same week that she got an approval for her apartment, she received news that she has a full-time job offer now with the rescue mission as an enhanced care manager. That comes with benefits as well. This person was living in the encampment just one short year ago. It was one of the people that we visited Tentside on a weekly basis. She is now employed full-time in a job with benefits and has her own apartment to call home. Before she was able to participate in the Bridge House program with security, stability, and safety, it was incredibly difficult to participate in case management while she was in the encampment. We're extremely happy for her. Thank you, Jennifer. So of the 4 options, I'd just like to break them down one by one, both in narrative, but by the numbers as well. And in your packet, you also have a table representing all 4 options with pros and cons and with financial analysis. So the first option presented tonight is the purchase of residential homes to increase shelter bed capacity for emergency shelter, where we discontinue through a phased approach the rental model and move to a purchase model. Using a permanent local housing allocation dollars and city funds, the city could purchase residential homes over time using that phased approach for emergency shelter use. Landlords and properties, as I mentioned earlier, can terminate rental agreements, leaving us vulnerable to a transition time where we may not have emergency shelter beds available. And it's difficult to sustain the case management while that transition is happening. Purchasing rather than renting could be a more reliable source of shelter and perhaps economically feasible. Residential homes large enough to accommodate 12 people in Los Banos range from $450,000 to $600,000. The total average annual cost to operate and perform general maintenance for one home is today averaging about $128,400. And this does not include rental costs. These numbers are based on actuals that we pay for one of the current Bridge homes. So we see an occupancy potential with this option of 40 people. And as far as the annual operations, that breaks down to about $12,840 per person per year. And on the capital cost side, it breaks down to about $67,500 per person. Now we move on to the tiny shelter village using the statewide purchase agreements for emergency shelter structures. And we're going to spend a little more time on this option because we found a lot of advantages with this particular option. So the state of California adopted a statewide purchase agreement through a statewide RFP. And you've got the contract number there for reference with 6 different individual emergency shelter vendors. The Joint Commission evaluated over 15 properties that we could perhaps put these structures upon. And we developed a decision matrix with criteria on how we would evaluate each of those properties. All are, of course, within the city limits. And we looked at both city and privately owned properties to make a comprehensive search. A site near the current encampment scored highest based on criteria such as access to services, access to utilities, neighborhood compatibility, and future use of property. The property evaluation matrix is included in your agenda packet, and we can look at that as well a little bit later so that you can see which properties the Joint Commission reviewed. And we also have the matrix, the decision matrix with all that criteria in your packet as well, so that you could see what we reviewed when we looked at each of these properties. The tiny shelter village would be served by an operator chosen through a competitive bid process and would also be supported by leveraged resources of the Medi-Cal Cal-AIM Enhanced Care Management Program and the Community Supports Program for both formal case management and other services through community supports such as deposits and application fees. that are available as people move from emergency shelter to permanent housing. And the tiny shelter would be connected to city services such as water, sewer, and connected to the electricity grid. Each shelter unit would be connected to electricity and have an electric mini split for air conditioning for both cooling and heating. There would be a community area of the tiny shelter village that would include laundry, bathrooms, and showers. And we know these are key elements, the dignity of having a shower, the dignity of having clean clothes, to be able to go to a job interview or to an important Social Security meeting. I'll also add that the accumulation of a lot of the garbage is clothing, because if you cannot afford to clean your clothes, it ends up in the landfill. We've looked into options for vouchers for laundromat, and it is quite expensive. We find that there's a significant advantage to having washer, dryer, and shower on site. And so that would be the proposed combination of the tiny shelter village. Just to continue with the tiny shelter village option, to fully research, I visited Grace Gardens in Modesto. This is a project very similar to the one that we would be proposing. This is a 12-unit program that is that also includes an ADA unit, laundry facilities, and the restroom. They're using cabins from Boss Cubes, one of the 6 approved vendors. Boss Cubes are a little bit more pricey than pallet structures. We find pallet structure has a lot of merit and a lot of advantages, and so our numbers, of course, would not be the same as Grace Gardens, but we wanted to provide an example. Any hard numbers would need to go through a formal bid process, or we would refer to the statewide price agreement. But just to give you some kind of reference, we found that the cost per unit is right around $80,000, and that includes the actual tiny shelter, the site construction, project administration, and oversight. And so for their 12 units, it was about $941,000. Again, this is just an estimate, but we thought it was a good base to look at. And because the mission is very similar to what we would be doing, I interviewed while I was there, not only the city principals that were there, I also talked to the construction managers that were on site and talked to the operators. And I took a bunch of pictures because I wanted to see, is this an apples to apples comparison? And just finishing up on the tiny shelter option, using the Modesto cost data, the estimated total construction and materials costs for Los Banos to stand up 30 units would be approximately $2.4 million. This estimate doesn't include the ongoing operations and services. Those ongoing operations and services for the 30 units are estimated to be approximately $100,000 per year. And this is an expense that could be funded by the permanent local housing allocation dollars that I mentioned, which are now used for those bridge homes, which is an expense in rental that is just going to go on and on and on and on and on. So we can potentially have an occupancy of 30 to 40 people because each pallet structure can hold 2 heartbeats. There are several people that cohabitate in the current encampment, and that could certainly be an option. However, we don't anticipate that 100% of these pallet structures would be double occupied. But to give you a practical range, that might be 30 to 40. The cost per occupant is most favorable amongst at least 3 of the options, and that's $2,500 per person per year in terms of annual ongoing operations, and $60,000 per person in capital costs. We also present tonight the purchase and rehabilitation of a local motel. Now, this might sound familiar because we propose this as a home key project. However, it doesn't find itself favorable in terms of emergency shelter. And the difference is we're not dealing with home key level funding which is in the tens of millions of dollars. And we're also not rehabilitating a local motel in this kind of option for permanent supportive housing at housing quality standards defined by HUD, which could lead to Section 8 vouchers. So we're talking about two very different applications of a local motel. For permanent supportive housing in a home key-like grant environment, perhaps it would be favorable, and it is something that we've brought to the council before. However, if you remember that project and wonder, well, why are we thinking about it here as a non-favorable when home key was favorable? And it really is about the application and the use. When we're talking about acquiring and rehabilitating an existing motel for emergency shelter and case management, we would have to purchase and rehabilitate at least up to code. We do not know what is behind the walls and in the panels and in the plumbing of a lot of these older motels, hotels, but we certainly would need to make it at least safe. And so the acquisition and the rehab could be a very unknown, although we have an appraisal for some of the motels along Pacheco. Those appraisals could have changed, and we just have no idea what's behind the walls in terms of rehabilitating. Even with a average or a range in cost, it's still the highest cost option, at least $3 million for the site acquisition alone. And again, the rehabilitation carries a financial risk because there are construction issues that maybe you can't see or that aren't apparent in the beginning of a project. The cost for rehabilitation could be between $2 and $4 million. And this is based on other rehabilitation hotel and motel projects that we've seen throughout the state. Now, there is a higher occupancy potential. However, it's very costly on a per person per year and very costly on a per person in terms of capital. Now, we could, this is the fourth option presented tonight, continue current emergency shelter operations, keep the status quo. This always has to be considered as an option. We wanted to make sure that we brought everything that the Joint Commission talked about to the table. This option maintains the status quo. No changes would occur within current service and supply levels. The tents that you see out at the encampment would need to be regularly replaced as their expected useful life is about 8 to 12 months. Tent costs range from $800 to $1,000 each, and at least 40 tents would be purchased annually to refresh that stock. The Public Works staff time, we researched this as well, and what it's costing for the code enforcement, police department expense, and the public work expense for the cleanups is about $65,000 respectively, and honestly could range even into $70,000 annually. Case management services for the encampment residents would continue to be provided by the City of Los Banos and our community providers that I mentioned earlier and governmental agencies. If option 4 is selected, this option of current status quo, it's recommended that laundry and shower units are placed in the encampment. Currently, we have no staff or volunteer force identified to operate shower or laundry facilities, but we know the benefits of providing those services as mentioned earlier. But I want to make clear, just because we put a shower unit out or a laundry unit out, we have to consider that there's maintenance ongoing and that we've got to have either a volunteer or staff support for that for the smooth operation. The occupancy potential here, about 40, and we've got $4,865 per person per year in annual operations, no capital costs because we would just be using the tents as they're being used now. And so we tried to summarize all of this information in the tables that you have available to you. We talked about the pros and the cons. I just want to narrow it down that if we purchase homes, the pro is the stability of ownership versus the risks of the rental agreements ending and not being renewed. The cons is that we've got a loss of tax revenue We also take some of the housing stock that we're already finding so precious to people trying to find housing in Los Banos. And so if we sort of take offline some of these homes, even if it's 2 to 4, that is a con that the Joint Commission found. The tiny shelter village, the pros is that we own the units. And so we talked about the future use. If we did solve homelessness at one point, how could we still have the asset of these structures and what could we use them for? We were even talking about them being a force multiplier of ADUs and people putting them in their backyards, and we've got to house people. So the tiny shelter village takes into account that possibly we could reuse these in the future. We would have it on the dedicated space on city property, and all residents are in one area. That is so helpful for us as case managers, extremely helpful. You may have noticed on Wednesdays, usually there's some provider, but Ms. Loa also once a month organizes a very large outreach event in the encampment. And we've got mental health out there, we've got physical health out there, we've got food, we've got Narcan, we've got substance use treatment providers, Aegis just joined us. And so having everybody in one place is just huge for us. It is extremely helpful. And the tiny shelter village does that for us. Cons, really all we found is the shorter lifespan of the units compared to a purchase of a home. However, that trade-off of having everybody collectively in one place and the financial advantage of the tiny shelter village really kind of outweighs that con. When we look at the acquisition of the hotel, we talked a little bit already about the con of that, and it's a pretty big one. Now, the pro is that, again, we have everybody in one space. However, we also lose the tax, the occupancy tax revenue. Did I say that properly? Thank you. I'm learning. Stacy's a very good teacher. And so we lose that, which is another pretty big con of that rehab acquisition option of a local hotel. And then to continue the current model, it's very difficult. We have done such a beautiful job. Chief Reyna is amazing, and code enforcement and public works. I mean, what we've been able to do is being studied by many jurisdictions. However, it's a short-term plan. We affectionately called it phase 1, and the tiny shelter village would be phase 2. And One Tree and other affordable housing that we hope to develop through the Housing Division and the Community and Economic Development Department is our future. And so with that, I'm not sure if we have the map. We don't. That's okay. The map should be in your packets. Each of the properties researched are numbered and correspond to the decision matrix. So if you have your decision matrix with you, you should be able to follow each of the properties here laid out for you on the map and understand how each of them scored according to that decision criteria. We know that this has been brought to the City Council before, and we want to honor and respect the work of the past. Chief Stacy and former City Manager and Chief Breezy worked on this far before I was here. And so we want to honor and respect that. What we've done here closely mirrors the reviews that have been done before. But if there are any questions about why we chose the decision criteria we did, or how anything scored, or frankly, anything in the presentation, I'd love to take your questions. Stacy, I'd like to ask you, did that cover everything for us? Okay.
Before we ask any questions,
Mayor, real quick, sorry, but just to conclude this presentation, Mayor, I think on the background slide, when we were on slide number 2, taking care of homelessness is a very complex tasks. It is a full continuum of care as to where our staff now has done a really good job through the housing elements, through all these developments to prevent homelessness through affordable housing, also diversifying our housing stocks through, demographic specific like senior home and things. That is in place. We now have case managements. We have public space management through code enforcement and public work. We also have permanent supported housing. However, they're all in a link together, and the missing link now is the shelter. Without having proper shelter and meeting those basic needs, doesn't matter how much case management, doesn't matter code enforcement, doesn't matter how many permanent supportive housing we put, we are not able to transition them from those kind of shelters into permanent housing to be able to rehabilitate them back into the society. And that's why tonight we're hoping that you could help provide some directions on what we can do with those emergency shelters so that we as staff can be prepared to bring back to you all the other funding availability that we could leverage. And right now, as a city, we are at a very advantageous because we've already have all those other spectrum with just that one missing link. So that's what we're hoping to get your direction tonight. And again, we will be bringing this back depending on what your direction is in January.
Great. Okay, before the city council asks any questions, I'm going to open it up. Lucy, if you want to read the letter, please, from Julie Creighton.
Good evening. This letter is to address the emergency shelter options. After reviewing the options presented in tonight's council meeting agenda packet, it is clear that option 3, purchase and rehabilitation of the local motel, is the strongest and most responsible choice. It not only provides resident stability, but also offers a true long-term solution rather than yet another temporary short-lived fix. Importantly, it accommodates the largest number of individuals in need, allowing the city to make a real, measurable impact. Although the initial investment may be higher than some alternatives, the long-term benefits make this the wisest and most cost-effective decision. Option 3 also offers the greatest ability to maintain safe and consistent containment of occupants, which is essential both for public safety and the safety of the residents themselves. A single centralized location with proper oversight ensures stability, reduces risk associated with dispersed or temporary sites, and allows services to be delivered more effectively and responsibly. The building already exists, and while bringing it up to code will require funding, its location is advantageous. Its proximity to essential services, shopping, public transportation, medical care means residents will have far greater access to the resources they depend on. Choosing a site farther from the town center would only create additional barriers and undermine the goal of providing stable, supportive shelter. As for concerns about losing TOT revenue, the current occupancy rate at the La Plaza Hotel indicates that the city is not forfeiting significant revenue. In contrast, transforming the property into a stable long-term shelter provides immeasurable community value by addressing urgent needs and improving safety for everyone. Option 3 is not just a choice, it is an investment in people, in stability, in safety, and in the future of the community. Thank you, Julie Creighton.
Okay, thank you, Lucy. And she makes some good points there. Before I open it up to the city council, is there anyone from the audience would like to speak on this? I'm going to ask you to come forward. You have 3 minutes. Out of those options, does anybody prefer one over the other? Please come forward. Welcome.
Again, I'm from the downtown area. We have coined our downtown area as the living room and the heart of the city. While there is options for this, we are already finding it difficult for retail to fill some of the retail spots. In the future, there has to be a look at that and solve that solution in the downtown area. The downtown area already has the maximum amount of high density. These are homes that were built in the 1900s and the 1920s and the 1940s. They're the original Henry Miller subdivisions, actually. And in some of these homes, you could see his original shoe horse imprint. These homes have stood for over 100 years. To continue to impact one area is just not a right thing to do. I just would like for people to think about different options. There's different towns like Tracy, California. They have it actually next to a water treatment plant. The individuals get bussed in and out, but they are a little bit of ways from, some of the amenities. So that kind of option should be looked at. But impacting, again, the downtown area over and over, and especially ones that are close to homes, should be looked at very carefully. Because as we destroy our downtown, we're going to destroy our town. But like I said, everyone's trying to work on filling those retail spots without offices. More retail is going to be beneficial for our downtown. I particularly, would like to see when we're looking at all this is that homeless individuals also have pets. And whatever you build, whatever you do, that option should be looked at and dealt with, whether or not it's one tree, or whether or not it's tiny homes, or whether or not it's a hotel. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else would like to speak on the options tonight? Welcome.
Hi, I just have my name's Kathy. I just have one really quick question. On the hotel, there's residents that live there and have lived there for quite a while. What happens to them? Oh, they go to the tents?
Those are good questions.
So that's what I'm concerned about. I know there are quite a few people that live there and have lived there for a while because the rent's low. And if you purchase it, all those residents have to find another home. So that was my only question for that.
Thank you. And unfortunately, that does happen to older hotels. They become long-term residents. Anyone else would like to speak on the options tonight? Welcome.
Hi, Mayor, council members, city staff. So when I get asked by people, Christy, the public, how everything is going, the transparency, how I cited on that paper, how can we go about telling the people what's the, churn rate? Like me, I have my gym memberships. I'm switching over to a system where I can see how much members are signing up, how much members are counseling, how much members are actually using the membership, and how much potential members I can have. It's nice to see those reports as to see what how well my business is doing in that sense. And I kind of relate that to the homelessness. You mentioned that the bridge homes have been 100% occupied since 2023, which is great, but are they the same occupants since 2023, or when does a space open available for a new occupant because one is ready to leave and able to depend on themselves? Is there anything we can share the residents to show that this program is working the way it is? That's something I wish we can work on, and so I can inform the people or the city can inform the people on those numbers, on the churn rates, on how well this is going with your plan and you manning this. So that's just one request
Do you have
I
any
have.
comments on the options?
Main thing, as long as they're in one area, I'm more against the residential ones because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to be happy knowing that's taking on. Me, if my neighbor is great, I don't mind it. But I know there's a lot of residents that will not like that. But other than that, one spot, whether it's the village, what is it called? I'm sorry, the tiny shelter village, or
Yeah, that's what it's called.
the motel. But as long as they're in one place and being taken care of, and if there's numbers showing that it's working or has worked or how it was compared to the one in Modesto, yeah, I mean, that'd be great. Numbers to show to the public, that'd be great. Thank you guys.
very much. Anyone else have any comments on the options tonight? Okay, I'll turn it back over to, thank you all for speaking. And I'll go ahead and turn it back to the City Council for comments or questions of staff. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. We're talking tonight about emergency interim shelter beds. We have a situation where we have the One Tree, and we have the homes that are being used, the bridge homes, and there's also talk about rehabilitating a motel. We have roughly about 114 people as homeless in our community. One Tree will house 58 people, so that leaves us roughly about 56 people left to deal with, and that's based on last year's numbers. But, in reviewing this project, and what I'm seeing is that our best option for me is the tiny home shelter village. And I understand that there's CDBG funds available to apply to help us place these homes for people who need that transition period. Rehabbing a hotel, as you said, Christy, you don't know what's in there until all the sheetrock's down and you're looking at the studs, and then the additional cost of what we would have to put in to accommodate a program such as this. And the monies that were available several years ago for the turnkey project, that money's gone now, as I understand.
Do you mean the home key? Pardon my.
Yeah, yes.
The all home key awards have been made, and I am not sure about future home key opportunities. We just go
But
from
we
year
don't
to
have
year.
any now, so we can't speculate what's going to happen in the
That's
future.
correct.
So, and then purchasing a home, as you've indicated the various things that it does. It takes property out of circulation for possible renters or other purchasers, as well as taxes to the community to help us continue to run the city of Los Banos. So we have to look at those options. We have property on the map. I think number one is where, I'm not sure if that's where One Tree is going to be, but we have additional property there. And if we're looking at case management services, it's better to have it all in one site. Whether it's going to be, I don't know that it's going to be the people that'll be doing One Tree, but everything will be there. Doing projects like this is basically to get people out of the elements and into something that's more suitable. Now, when I was down at the League of Cities, I had an opportunity to physically see some of these tiny homes. And what I saw, I was very impressed. The one thing I think the fire chief would be happy about is that these individual living spaces are fire rated, so that if fire is inside one unit, it's not going to spread to the next one, which makes me happy that that's a safety factor in place. So for me personally, that's what I am going to vote for, is the tiny homes. And I think that additional property that we have over near One Tree is a suitable site. We already own it. We can do whatever is necessary to place a foundation there for these facilities and secure any surroundings from the apartments that are there as well as the trailer home. So I think that's the most reasonable that we can do at this particular time, since it is an emergency, since we're talking about something that's more like an emergency shelter to get people out of the tents. Building a hotel or rehabbing a hotel can take years to do. And I don't see that as the most viable thing to try to alleviate this problem that we have in Los Banos. So that will be my vote tonight, is for the tiny homes.
May I add, please, CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant for non-entitlement jurisdictions, that notice of funding availability was released. We're going to bring more information to you in a future city council seeking a resolution and permission to apply. The hotel option becomes even less favorable because CDBG will look at your application, and if any relocation plan must be developed because you are displacing people, your points go way down because you're creating more homelessness potentially. And so one thing that we may not know widely is that CDBG it's very competitive this year. There are only $27 million for all non-entitlement jurisdictions. We're already working on our application, preparing for that now. We've looked at the scoring criteria, and we are trying to address every single category for the most potential of points. And we really subtract points when we choose the rehabilitation of the local hotels because we do have people living there. Therefore, it requires a relocation plan.
Well, I hope that we get that application information to council as quickly as possible, because delaying it, will probably, I don't know that it will, but we want to be within that scope of time to be able to get that funding. And I've seen on Bay Area TV where San Jose is doing a lot of these tiny home shelters. It's the most affordable thing to do for an emergency situation and to get people out of tents. And the surroundings look rather nice. You don't have to have it look like a ticky-tack house that you're living in.
That's right.
But I feel that's the quickest way that we can accomplish what we need to do in Los Banos, and also be able to get financial help to do it, because the burden of homelessness and mental health treatment really belongs to the state and the county, but it's been foisted down on cities to handle. So if we can apply for funding and hopefully get money that will help us accomplish what we need to do to help the people in our community, then I think, for me, that's the best route. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. And tonight, staff is looking for guidance on what option, not necessarily where it will be located. That will probably be in January. Yeah. We come back in January to talk about that. So anyone else?
Christy's there?
Yeah.
Christy, so on the homes, the two emergency homes, is there 10 people per home currently?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, that's a lot. Yeah. I just don't see people being happy about us pursuing that, and at least that's what I would think. I think my next question is for Minnie. As far as the tax revenue, what do you estimate would be lost if we were to go down the path of that, as far as taking that over? What kind of tax revenue would we lose? Any kind of estimate on that?
Property tax, it would be exempt from property tax on that home. And so CFDs, anything that supports fire, we wouldn't assess. We'd be assessing ourselves. So probably 5,000, about 5,000 per, and it also depends where it's at, where it's located, depending what the rate is.
Gotcha. So we don't have any estimates
What
we would lose.
landscape maintenance district it's in, what benefit what district it's in, all those assessments would go away.
Yeah, because the letter that came in tonight has a lot of good good points to it. But with what Kathy said as well, we're displacing people. We might cause more homelessness, but then also, that's why I just want to so we have all the information on the table. What kind
And
of
the
tax
motel-
revenue would we lose as
And the
well?
motel would be, you would be losing the TOT tax. It's not much in terms of the TOT tax, but
Yeah.
it is the displacement, I think, of the people.
And then Councilmember Travis, to add to that too, another thing that we can't really be in our control, the house has to be available, right? So the location of where that purchases have to be unavailable sales. So picking a location would not necessarily be an option for us. So that's a big one. I think to Minnie's point, typically our LNLDs run somewhere between 600 to 1,000, probably taxed at about 1%. So yeah, $5,000 to $6,000 a year on loss of property tax per house.
Okay. What about the hotel tax?
Hotel tax is 9.
9%. Let me check.
I think it's around 9%.
I think it's 9%.
Yeah. And that's transit occupancy tax, so
So it's the rental of
the rental of the room
of the
until they
room.
stay 30 days and then the tax goes away.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Gotcha.
So if they're being lived in for more than 30 days, then there wouldn't really be a tax loss.
Tax loss then. Okay, so it minimizes that loss. All right.
Okay, Evan?
So I know this isn't the decision being made today, but you mentioned that there was like a decision matrix, and maybe I'm missing something, but I have this map with numbers on it, but nothing that tells me what the numbers mean other than.
Is one the primary pick first, and then number 2 would be a secondary pick, or your guys'
So I'm so sorry, this matrix should have been in the packet?
It's there on page 365.
Oh, it's in, okay, so it's not in this one, and it's not on this one, it's in this one.
Yes. It's in your staff report.
Thanks,
All right,
Lucy.
so I can look at that later, because we're not deciding that today. Very last page, yeah. Oh, there, I remember seeing that earlier. Okay. One thing you didn't address, so for all these 4 options, is there an estimate on timing for each of them?
Well, let me talk a little bit about CDBG. That is the funding source that seems most suited for this. It was actually just delayed at the federal and state level. Originally, the application, which is not an over-the-counter application process, and that over-the-counter means first come gets preference, which creates quite an anxiety and a flurry. Thank goodness this is a deadline-based grant application process, and the original application due date was January 30th. That's now been pushed out. We believe that the application won't even be online until February now. It was going to be online December 1st. So we've got some time, and that urgency of trying to get it in as fast as we can, which sometimes can lead to not the best application that you would hope to put in, we now can be a little bit more careful. So if we're talking about using CDBG funds, we're talking about at least 18 months out. The application process takes about 30 to 60 days after that due date. And then it's usually 2 to 3 months after that when award letters come. So I would estimate about 18 months.
Okay, so 18 months before we even get started on any of these.
No, 18 months till completion if we were awarded CDBG at the timetable that we have today.
So the
But it's
timing of building a tiny shelter village or refurbing a local motel is basically the same.
refurbing the motel might even be longer because there's just too many unknowns about rehabilitation on the construction.
And then continuing the current model is obviously the fastest one because we already have it. There seems to me, there's a lot of overlap between continuing the current model and the tiny shelter village because you still need the same facilities. You still need laundry and showers and all that kind of stuff. And those are going to be separate units because these little buildings are not going to have that. So
Correct.
is there like a kind of a mix that we can do with this where we can start getting some stuff in that they need regardless of what we do if we do decide to go to tiny shelter village? And also following up, I assume to get these CDBG funds, we have to tell them this is what we want to do. That's why we're making this decision now.
Yes, we're trying to work quite early because in order to have the best CDBG application we can have, there are stamped engineering plans that need to be included. There need to be all of that background work. CDBG, the notice of funding availability, really stressed the need for qualified applicants to have readiness. And so we've even worked ahead to publish a request for qualifications for developers in construction and general contractors that can work on a project like this. Because when you submit your application, they want to know that you're already, law of attraction, right? That you've worked on it well ahead of this application. And that can earn you the most points. So we're doing all that foundational work, and if it's not CDBG and we're not awarded that, there really are very few grant sources for emergency shelter or interim shelter right now. We can look at using our permanent local housing allocation that's now being used for bridge homes, but again, we have that overlap.
So with the CDBG, what percentage of that are we expecting to be able to, like, if we get the grant, is it going to pay for the whole thing, or is this like a funds matching thing?
No, there are no funds matching, but CDBG, this particular notice of funding availability has a $3.6 million cap for applications, for each jurisdiction's application. There are 4 major categories of eligible activities that you can apply for. We would apply to cover the construction costs completely. We would also apply for program costs to perhaps marry not only the capital construction project, but also have even more case management, and for the ongoing costs of operation. And so we would be applying for both a project and a program, with the sum total being $3.6 million, which is the cap under the current NOFA.
And I guess the reason I ask is because if there's funds matching, if the city's going to be spending money on this anyways, getting started on some of these things that we're going to need, I think we need regardless, the showers and laundry and things like that, which is going to require power and sewer and plumbing and all that. Getting started, would that help with the process to show that we're actually working on this?
Most definitely, the skin in the game, right? If we take funds, city funds, and devote it to a project like this, of course, it would show readiness, and then that particular scoring criteria category could be increased.
Would those funds be something that we could recoup with the fund if we get the grant? Could we reimburse ourselves with that, or that's not?
Unfortunately, no. Usually on these grants, it's from expenses that are eligible in all regards, only back up to the award date. And not since COVID have I seen them retroactively reimbursed. So I do not believe so. Any comment on that? Yeah, agreed? Or okay, good. Oh, great. Thank you, Stacy. So supplanting, basically, you need to use these funds for a program, a service that does not exist now. It cannot fund things that a city or a jurisdiction is already funding and operating. So we can't say, well, let's have it pay for the housing division. Now, having said that, you can apply for administrative costs. I believe in this NOFA it's 5%. Of the total ask you can devote. So that can offset administrative costs, but really that is supposed to be devoted to administrative tasks that are happening because you've now added this. So the reporting, the grant management, it cannot supplant or cover things that a jurisdiction has already budgeted for.
Hey, Christy, another real quick question. Do we have anybody in the hotel currently that we do anything with, whether it's emergency shelter or stuff like that? So there's already some people there, huh?
Yes, sir. We did have some funds set aside for emergency shelter motel stays. We've written policies and procedures for the housing division, and we decided through the group that we could fund only up to the available amount in our budget when 2 criteria were met. One is that we had an exit plan for that person. An example would be they have a Section 8 voucher and it's going to be a week or 2 before we can get them into the unit. So that bridge and imminent harm, especially with minors. So typically we've used our emergency motel money for families with minors because there is no family shelter except for the domestic violence survivor and victim shelters through Valley Crisis Center. Save for those beds, there is no family shelter in Merced County.
Okay. So then if, something like the tiny shelter, if we did something like that, then that kind of leaves us flexibility at the hotel for maybe, for these families or if
As
something comes
needed.
up future. I'm just saying, just trying to think of all the things that we can consider. That's all I'm saying.
I would agree.
Okay. Thank you.
And Councilmember Chavez, the rate is 10% for TOT tax for Las Vegas.
Okay. Thank you.
Any comments?
Is after looking at all the options, I'm also right there thinking the tiny shelter village would be the best option just due to the balance of affordability and the capacity. Displacement of people in the motel currently, doing the tiny shelter village would help us avoid that. And like Chavez pointed out, we can keep the motel for those families that are already there. I also think it's good to have everyone together. It'll make case management easier, having them on site, and it'll have a secure managed entry, I think. And then another thing I was looking at is scalability too. Maybe for in the future, we might need to add more units, and I think it'll be the easiest option to do so.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because through the use of our PLHA dollars, if we're not spending them as much on bridge homes, those PLHA dollars are funds assessed on real estate transaction through the authorizing legislation of Senate Bill 2. So it's a steady flow of funds. However, it's volatile because it is based on real estate transaction fees that are assessed. So it is a constant funding source, but it is a volatile funding source following the housing market. However, we get a one-year allocation sometimes of $113,000 all the way up to $289,000 in this current 5-year cycle. And we could add, like you said, add on. It is scalable, both up and down. So I agree.
Okay, thank you all very much. Well, first of all, this is a process. We did thankful to our department heads and staff, and Christy, you and Jennifer and Stacy. We did state phase 1, which was the encampment, but we all know that has to go. That is not the answer. I'm in favor of the tiny shelter village also. I studied it personally. I think it's the best chance of us getting any type of reimbursement through community block grants. Also, I just want to add, you don't qualify for community block grants unless you follow your housing plan, which is what we just did with let's see, that's called North Point. That's following our housing plan, which then qualifies us for community block grants. That's how the state ties you all in and makes you do what they want you to do. But anyway, so the encampment has to go. I think we have to discuss where we're going to put this project, if the council decides on the tiny shelter, if that's the decision of the council. It has to be done sooner than later. We need all those other services that will be offered, the laundry, the showers and everything like that. And I think it's the right direction to go. Bridge homes are where it's at, and we have to be able to increase the size of the footprint if needed in the future, because we need to get those people out of that encampment. And for the people of our community and the people that live there, they both need to be, we need to deal with that. So with that, I don't think we actually need a motion, but just direction. Tiny homes, Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, with everything said, I just displacing more people and just the grants and all that stuff's going to affect. I just can't see that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, there's good points made to the hotel, and
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of it. But hearing all this other stuff, I just think the tiny shelter.
I agree. I do not think we'd get the community block grant with the hotel. And you already said.
Yeah, so the tiny home, I think, is kind of the obvious choice here, but I'd like to see it presented in a way that we can, if we don't get this grant, that we can understand what the different costs are, so we can understand what our appetite as a council is to spend city dollars on this to build things like showers and laundry, you know, a pavilion that has the amenities that they need to stay, you know, clean and connected and all that sort of stuff. Because I think that is something that we probably need to do regardless, even if it's just making the tent city better. If we don't get any of these money, and we don't want to spend the whatever it is, $3 million on tiny homes as a city. So I think it just needs to be broken out in a way that we can decide, you know, what we want to do, maybe a phased approach if we don't get grant money, and then we can go for grant money next year or the next time something comes available to do, you know, the next step.
Good point. Okay, and this direction of the council is to go with the tiny shelter village. Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it, and we will now move on. Next item is cancellation, and I do appreciate everybody that sent the letters and spoke at the podium. We appreciate everybody's comments. But item 10 is cancellation of the regular city council meeting scheduled for Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. Oh my gosh, 2026.
Mayor.
Due to the Christmas holiday season, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to cancel the regular city council meeting. I'm waiting for Bill to correct me. One last correction before he's gone, you know, before he leaves. Hey, what are you doing? You can't
still
do
right.
that.
You're
You
right.
can't do that.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second by Sanders. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Go to city department reports. We'll start with our Community Economic Development Director, Stacy Souza Helms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do want to start with the public hearing notices, and we will have 2 planning commission meetings next week. The first will be on Wednesday, December 10th at 6 p.m. That first item will be considering a rehabilitation of an existing car wash. This would be a demolition and rehabilitation at 1015 East Pacheco. This is the car wash that's located next to I call it Marion Santos' Chevron, next on 10th Street, right across the street from El Griense's restaurant. And the second item is Villages 6 subdivision, which consists of 30 units. This is a small pocket that's within the Stone Creek subdivision right off of Cardozo Road. And then on December 11th, we will be holding a special meeting, and this is based on us having a conflict of interest and a planning commissioner having to recuse themselves and not meeting a quorum. So we will be holding a special meeting the following day on December 11th for San Luis Estates. That consists of 96 units. It's located just south of Los Banos Junior High, in between Miller and the extension of Place Road. So both of those items, all 3 of those items will be held next week. The first 2 are on Wednesday at 6 p.m. and the last item, San Luis Estates, is on Thursday at 6 p.m. And then I have some exciting news. We have 2 businesses that will be opening this week with their grand openings. The first is Ono Hawaiian Barbecue. Their grand opening will be Friday, December 5th at 11 a.m. They are located at 1443 West Pacheco Boulevard. This is right next to Dutch Bros, in the same shopping center as Target, just in front of Target. And then the next one is Retro Rewind. This is a pretty cool new business at 537 I Street in our downtown. It is family entertainment with cool retro arcades that maybe some of us older folks remember. And that concludes my report.
But yeah.
So when is that grand opening?
That one is on Saturday at 10 a.m.
Okay. Great. Anything else? Thank you very much. Finance Director, Minnie Moreno. Minnie?
Nothing to report.
Thank you very much. Fire Chief, Paul Dwalla. Paul?
Good evening, everyone. We're looking forward to the parade on Saturday, so we will look forward to hosting everyone that night. Leading into that, now that we're in the Christmas season, we will have Santa on the Engine December 17th, 19th, 21st, and 22nd this year. and we're trying to make a little bit more rounds around the neighborhood, and we're stopping at various parks along the way. So everything's on our social media page, and we have some flyers that have been handed out. So we have that. We look forward to that. And on the 15th of December at 10 a.m. at Fire Station 1, we're going to be doing a swearing-in badge pinning ceremony for our new folks. So we are really excited about recognizing our folks that have been promoted, new folks that have started, and filling those new battalion chief positions. So we thank you again. That's going to really help with some management and oversight of our personnel. So we'll look forward to that. And we're still working with the county on our AMR transition with the ambulance service, and they're doing a really, really good job with having those relationships with everyone and attending a lot of meetings. And they've met with our folks, some PD folks, and dispatch with our police services manager and dispatch supervisor in regards to some of the transition that will happen. So we look forward to having them as our new provider in the county. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Chief. Human Resource Director, Lucy Melanie.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Since the last City Council meeting, 3 new employees have started with the city. Jesse Spangler, part-time maintenance worker at the community center. Zachary Zuspin, he's a police officer. Carlos Pena, a part-time maintenance worker in the fleet division. And 5 current employees have changed classifications or received promotions. Martin D. Franco is a utilities maintenance 1. Gabriel Cervantes is an environmental control specialist trainee. Brian Thompson is one of the new battalion chiefs. Juan Ramirez is promoted to a fire captain, and Vincent Rizzo is promoted to a fire engineer. We are in the process of hiring at least 12 more employees by the end of the month, and we are currently recruiting for community services officer, a custodian, a lateral police officer, a legal assistant, a public safety dispatcher, and volunteer firefighters. And if anyone is interested in working for the city, please visit the city's website to view current job postings or contact HR at City Hall for more info at 827-2427. And a reminder that the Los Banos City Council is hosting its 29th annual holiday open house at the next meeting on December 17th. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Lucy. Parks and Rec Director, Joe Heim. Joe?
Good evening. So the big thing that we have going is our Breakfast with Santa coming up. Tickets are on sale now. That event is on the 13th. The Saturday prior, as Chief mentioned, is the Christmas parade. So hopefully you enjoy the parade, but also stick around at the plaza because we'll be doing the tree lighting ceremony that we always do at the end of the parade. We did get a couple shade structures installed in the last few weeks. So one at the Ag Complex, one at Shaughnessy Park. We're still looking to open Shaughnessy here as soon as we can. There's some concrete that'll be going on underneath the shade structure as well as the playground certification to go. And then short of that, I'll lead into Chiefs with Cocoa with Popo.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Police Chief Ray Randall. Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'll be quick. Otherwise, Director Moreno gives me a hard time for being up here too long. SNP Bus. So this is something that we brought back to Los Banos. SNP Bus is a mobile service that comes to your town. We work with them. We've signed up about 75 residents to receive free spay neuter services. For animals, we focused on those who were low income this time. So they will be here December 8th and 9th. All the slots have already been filled up, and it always goes very well. We hope to bring them back again in 2026. We are using funding that the council approved this fiscal year for these services. So thank you very much. This is a very valuable event and something that I think you almost gave away last time, but you let me talk about it. So thank you. National Child Safety Council is it's an organization that works with law enforcement to help them raise funds to provide free material literature for children, like child safety books and how to dial 911 and things like that. They also work with you to fund the safety pup outfit. So we had one years ago. So we worked with them this year. Our dispatch supervisor worked with them. We worked with a number of local businesses, and we were able to raise approximately $2,400. And with that, we were able to provide or to purchase a new safety pup outfit. And so going into that, safety pup will be tomorrow at the Hot Cocoa with the Popo event. This is, I believe, our third year providing this event. It will be from 5 to 9 p.m. It will be at the Henry Miller Plaza. I will warn you, it's supposed to be a little cold. So come one, come all, dress warm, and we will be there. We're going to have a great time. As the Human Resources Department mentioned, Zachary Zuspin did start with us on Monday. He's a lateral police officer. We will be scheduling his swear-in ceremony for the public, and we will invite you all to attend. We also have a number of other events going on this month. A Shop with a Cop. We have about 60 local children that we worked with the school district, and we have signed them up, and we will be taking them on a shopping spree. Cops for Kids, a bunch of other great events that are coming up this year that we are very proud to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, very much. Public Works Director, William Vai. William?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm going to keep it short. This meeting, we do have a new city engineer that is going to be starting on December 16th, actually. So I'm going to have him come to the December 17th meeting so he can meet everybody. James Kozad, who was formerly, I think, acting Public Works Director or acting city engineer for a consultant in this last 3 years in one of those gaps somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but he will be starting on December 16th, so that's good news. Filling one of those vacancies and taking a little bit of a load off of me, so. And then the other thing is Juan Lopez, who is currently an ECM trainee, passed the test for wastewater treatment plant operator, and he already has the hours involved. So he has applied for that certification from the state. So as soon as he gets that certification, then we will have 2 operators at the plant. And with Gabriel moving from utilities to an ECM trainee, now he needs to put in his time and pass his test. So we're making a little bit of progress out there. So, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to our city manager, Naran Than.
I was asked to also not give a report tonight. No, thank you for the staff, and wanted to give a shout out to our HR department. They are very small but mighty. As you can imagine, with the new level of service as well as added staff position, it really does take a lot of toll on our HR department. So thank you, Lucy, for making that happen for all of us. We finally can start having some of those capacity to deliver a lot of these projects that we have on the book. Thank you.
That's it? Wow. Okay, well, thank you very much. And we will move on to City Council members' report. We'll start with District 3, Mr. Marcus Chavez.
Wanted to start with that gentleman that first started off tonight talking about, the people in the encampment. If people can help out as much as possible, what is that to raise a child takes a village or something like that? Community, public, donate to local food banks and other religious organizations to help out, and that would be, very helpful and appreciated. And also, I'd want to, Bill, or our city manager, I don't know who. Hey, and I know we got plans to work on the roads and stuff like that. But I've had some messages about potholes. Somebody, 152, had busted they blew out their tire, which I talked about. That's a Caltrans deal, but of course we're always working with them and want to make sure we're doing due diligence with the weather and the potholes and coming up. So just so the residents know, we are trying to keep up with that stuff while we get through our road repair, which is going to take us a while, but at least fill those holes up just to not damage vehicles. Look forward to seeing people out at the Christmas parade on Saturday, and hopefully I'll see some people tomorrow at Cocoa with the Popo. So we'll get with Mr. Rayner tomorrow night at the plaza. And last but not least, once again, Mr. Vaughn, thank you very much for your service. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for all your help, and appreciate your time here. I wasn't with you all the time, but appreciate everything that you've done. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to District 4, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. Our police department on an annual basis has a fundraiser for community members to bring in canned goods and any food that's packaged so that we can help people in our community. So I just wanted to reiterate that because I don't want people in our community thinking that our city doesn't do anything to try to help people that are in need. And this has been going on for quite a while. So Chief, thank you for keeping that program going. And you know, perhaps I missed something, Mr. City Manager, but could you have your staff send council email to let us know where we're supposed to meet for the parade this Saturday? I'm not quite sure where we're supposed to be. And just a couple of things moving forward in regards to perhaps our design standards, and I know that we're working on that again. But one of the things that I'd like to see included when projects are coming to us for approval, I think it's time now that we look at video renderings of what a project looks like totally, rather than paper goods that are one-dimensional. It's not just for us to look at, but it's also for the public to see what's going to be coming into their neighborhoods and into their communities. And I've seen them online from other communities where it's a video visual that gives you the streetscape, you know, where the houses are going to be put, any community facilities that are going to be inside those communities. So I think it's time for us to move forward with that. And I don't mind the paper product because I'm a tangible person. I like to touch stuff and read it, make notes and things like that. But overall, for our community, I think it's good for them to be able to have eyes on what projects look like when they come into our communities. And also, when we're along with that, in our design standards, I think it would be a good idea that when projects are being built, and I take this from like Tracy Hills when we visited out there, that after a certain amount of homes are built, you know, that there is a fire station there already, that there are other amenities that are needed by that community that are in place, because to wait until a community is totally built out and then have to scurry and get these projects completed can put a hardship on the new infrastructure that's out there. So I think for me, I think it's time for us to move forward to require those things to be built out after X amount of homes are built, so that those homes are protected and we also have those services available to the rest of our community. So that's about it that I have this evening.
Right.
Thank you very much.
District 1, Mitzi Perez. Mitzi.
Thank you. The only thing I wanted to bring up was, like Deborah said, right now to help people out. I've seen other communities doing this. They set up, I don't know if you've seen in neighborhoods where they set up like these little borrow book nooks, but instead of books, they have food like canned goods and other, other foods. I've seen a lot, especially right now during the holidays. I've seen a lot of people on social media asking strangers, do you have any food, diapers, any supplies that you can, they're not necessarily homeless, but they're just probably, struggling financially. And I think it would be something we can do so, they don't have to ask. Some people are too shy or embarrassed to ask for help. And I think it'd be nice to set these places up where, it's in your neighborhood and people are welcome to, drop off canned goods or, beans, rice, things like that. And people could just go in and out and grab what they need. And I think that would be something that would be helpful for the community, just based off what I've seen online and people struggling. And thank you again for serving the city, and congrats on your retirement.
Thank you, Mitzi. And District 2, Evan Sanders.
Well, it's nice to be back. I missed the last meeting. Missed all your smiling faces. Thanks to staff as usual for all your work. You always make it really easy and really clear and answer all my questions, so I really appreciate that. Congratulations, Bill. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Following up on Councilmember Lewis about building facilities at a certain time, certain triggers during a project. I think that there's a lot of stuff that we need to address. I'm going to keep this because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned on, things that maybe we want to do moving forward to make sure that we're building a city that we're all proud to live in 20 years from now, 50 years from now, however old you are. I think there's a lot of good stuff in the North Point thing, but I think there are definitely lessons to be learned, especially around the medium density housing. I think that that's something we need to talk about. And then the other thing is that we keep having these high density little pockets in these communities, and that's all this infill. And I feel like we need to do something to get developers to want to actually build these. And I don't know, we're not developers, so we can't force anybody to do anything, but it doesn't seem like any of it ever gets built, but we really need it badly. So I'm not sure what tools we have to try to get people to take action on this, but anyways, it's a conversation for the future, and I'm looking forward to having it. And then my last thing is kind of a personal one. We have this really cool calendar that Gary worked on for the city, so the city council knows all of the stuff that's going on, and it's how I know I can look at the week and be like, oh, there's all these events. It's pretty hit and miss what's on it. So department heads, I'd really appreciate if we can make sure that the events get on it. Neuron, if you can help me out on it. As people were mentioning these things happening this week, I'm looking at the calendar saying, oh, no, that's not on there. But I live and die by my calendar on the phone, just like Councilmember Lewis has her written one that she goes by. But I'd really appreciate it if I could not hear about events the next day and be like, oh, shoot, I forgot about that one because it wasn't on the calendar and I couldn't just look at it. So I appreciate that. That is all.
Great. Thank you very much, Evan. I had an MCAG meeting after our last city council meeting. We did a lot of just normal general business, but we did have 2 closed sessions about purchasing property next to the Highway 59 dump site, solid waste dump site there in Merced. Looking at purchasing property there to have more of a buffer around that waste site, and also about purchasing some property to expand MCAG's office a little bit so we don't have to keep on using the county's offices and boardrooms and things like that. I was part of MCAG when we purchased the office that is there, and it was a hard vote because a lot of the supervisors at that time, none of them are, I don't know if that tells you, none of them there, and I'm still there, but anyway, they didn't want to spend any money, but it's really been a blessing to have that office and not work out of portables and stuff like that. I want to thank the Downtown Association, the Los Banos Chamber of Commerce, and the downtown businesses. The lights look fantastic. I've gotten lots and lots of comments, positive comments on them. Actually, my wife got a call last night to tell me how nice the lights look. So I want to congratulate all those, that group putting it all up. It really makes a festive town and things look a lot better. Looking forward to the parade on Saturday. And I want to end with, like what Lucy said, this is our 29th year of our annual holiday open house. I think the only one, who was here 29 years ago, Lucy? I think it was just her and I. We were here, Lucy and I were here 29 years ago. Then I took an 18-year break. But anyway, it's a good chance for you to come on down. It starts at 4:30 in the lobby of the City Hall here. Meet our staff, our directors, meet the council, bend our ears a little bit, tell us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. It's a good, and to network, it's really good. So we're inviting you all. There'll be a little refreshments, probably some punch and cookies, and too bad there wasn't something a little bit stronger before our meetings, but we can't do that, I guess. But anyway, I invite everybody on December 17th at 4:30. And I just want to end it with another thank you to Bill. It's been a great time with you, working together with you, and looking forward. You're my personal lawyer too, so looking forward to continue working with you. And we really can't thank you enough for what you've done for the city. You've really moved the city forward in a positive direction with your guidance to making sure we're doing things correctly. So thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.